And we're back, and in studio we have with us Dr. Orrett Morgan. Dr. Morgan, how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing fine. I'm enjoying the Jamaican weather. Although
Yes.
it's rainy.
We're in the rainy season right now, so it rains almost every day. But with that, we enjoy some cooler
Oh, yes.
weather.
Which I welcome.
Yes. Hallelujah. We'll take the rain with the cooler weather. Yes. All right, very good. So we're very blessed to
Yeah, we
have
are.
you here.
Especially it's avocado season.
Oh,
And
yes.
we're just out of the mango season where I ate mangoes pretty much every day. And
You
not
know-
just one or two, but some nice, really lovely mangoes. And now I'm eating like an avocado almost every day.
And it's well worth the wait because I was waiting all year
Yes.
for avocado season.
Yes.
But you know, I see some mangoes on the tree right now,
Yes, yeah, those supposed to be coming in the winter. So maybe
Okay.
by about December, early January, we should be having
Alright.
some more mangoes.
And guys, as you hear, we're talking about healthy foods.
Yes.
And we're going to be talking about affordable healthcare. So we're going to get into that. But before we share, we're just going to have a word of prayer. And then we're going to get into this very important topic. So, our kind and loving Father, we thank you so much for this opportunity. We thank you so much for having our best interest at heart and for wishing above all things that we will prosper and be in good health. So, as we talk about affordable health care, we ask that your Holy Spirit will be with us and guide us into all truth. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, so can you first remind everyone how you got into the Seventh-day Adventist message?
Oh, well, actually, if you said, say, 41 years ago, you told me that I was going to be an Adventist, especially a fanatic one. In
Okay.
quote.
Okay.
And I said fanatic one because raising 5 children without any form of health coverage for the past 27 years.
Have mercy.
Right.
Yes, that sounds fanatical
Yeah,
to
that
the people
definitely.
outside in the world.
Exactly. Not-
Almost irresponsible, I would say.
yeah, definitely. That's child abuse. Right, and then when you add to it, no immunization for the
Have mercy.
of our 5 children. 4 have never had an immunization by man, but immunized by God.
Amen.
Because Exodus 15:26 tells us that if we diligently hearken unto Him and do that which is right, and give ear to His commandments, and His commandments are not only the 10 commandments. It's talking about walking. They're for the healthcare, eating right. Trusting God instead of stressing out the fresh air and all of these. The drinking of the water. And those are part of the commandments because they are part of what helps give us good health to also be able to understand the 10 commandments and also follow them, right? So here the Lord tells us that if we give ear to His commandment, He'll put none of these diseases upon us. Now, is there anything better than that? Isn't that affordable? And that's why we're going to talk about affordable health care, right? Without what? Insurance. For what all? So here it is, being raised as a non-Adventist, ate pork, shrimp, well, never crab or lobster.
Okay.
I grew up on a seafood diet, even although I grew up here in Jamaica and it took me roughly about an hour and a half to the nearest sea. But I grew up on a seafood diet. Why? Because everything I saw and I wanted it, I ate it.
Nothing was restricted.
Nothing was restricted. Any time of the night. I remember as a young man, hanging out with my friends, one of the things I would make sure I go home with every night, not some nights, pretty much every night, right, is something to eat in the 11, 12 o'clock hour of the night.
Wow.
Now, God is wonderful, right?
Yes.
I didn't have heart attack by the way, talking about heart attack, yes, I am from a heart attack family. My grandfather died in the 70s from a massive heart attack, and he was only 58.
Wow, that's pretty young.
Yes, pretty young. Well, he should have taken heed because his brother, right, a younger brother of his, died from a massive heart attack in my grandfather's shop and bar in Spanish Town, Jamaica there, right, from also a massive heart attack.
Right.
My oldest uncle from that family, he had a heart attack in England where he's been living for over 50 years. well, over 60, or pretty much close to 60 years, his younger sister from that same side of the family, right, which is my youngest aunt, she had a heart bypass about 3 years ago. So you're talking, and so many other of the Douglas family, we're talking about now, that my mother's side of family, not my dad's side of family, right? Bruce Golding mother is Douglas, so Bruce Golding is from that family. And if anybody knows Bruce Golding, you see he's built. He's not a very tall person.
Yes.
You know, big body. You know, not say he's a fat person, but
big bones.
Big bones. Those are candidates for heart attack, especially if they don't eat right. And so my side of the Douglas family, right, my mom's side of the Douglas family, they love to eat the rich food and whatever, and you name it. So it's not strange that I've had massive heart attack and strokes and heart bypass and whatever.
Wow.
So that is a genetic part of my mother's side of family that I came from. And then being raised as an Anglican, you know, anything I saw and wanted it, I ate it. Right?
Very
so
interesting.
I believe I was really almost programmed to suffer the same thing. However, the Lord looked beyond my faults, saw my needs, and in 1978 I decided to become a Seventh-day Adventist, thinking that the only thing I needed to do was go to church on Saturday and just get used to, you know, the Adventist life. Really, I knew nothing that we as Adventists have a message that include health, right, and not just so-called unclean, right? But all animal products, all refined products and whatever. Pretty much how I grew up in the country, only except that we ate a little piece of meat once on Sundays, and as most people did in the country back in those days.
Right.
So here in 1978, I decided to be an Adventist, and on the 21st of January, 79, I was baptized and get exposed during that time now to the health message, which I could have just thrown off, kicked by the wayside, but through Rasta influence earlier, not that I was a Rasta, but I had many friends who were Rastafarians. I had an interest in vegetarianism.
So prior to becoming an Adventist, you had
influence from it. Yeah, I had an
vegetarianism.
Interest. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. So when I became an Adventist and learned from the Bible and the Spirit of Prophecy and other books about the importance of health reform, right? You know, so not just the diet issue, not just vegetarianism now, but the whole lifestyle, right? That galvanized me, where I decided, well, this is a good opportunity to leave all animal products alone.
Wow.
So I left Jamaica 8 months into being an Adventist, which I got to Chicago on the 15th of June, 1979, and within a month and a half of being there, I quit eating chicken, beef, curried goat, and all form of meat.
Just cold turkey?
Just cold turkey. I just cut it out just like that. With the exception, the only flesh I was eating was fish, and if I knew then what I knew now, that would have been gone from my plate also. Right? And so for the next 8 years, I continued eating fish, and as usual, my snapper was one that I liked. But for 31 years now, I've been a complete vegan.
Wow.
With many a times, most of what I eat is raw.
Most of the time.
Yes. And that has really helped a lot, where I've seen my blood pressure, right, that back in, and we'll get a little into that, back in 1991, which was a little elevated from stress from my job. My blood pressure now is normally 107, 108 over 67, 68, coming from a family that heart attack by my mother's side is our middle name.
Amazing. So that just goes to show that you are not sentenced to the same diseases that your family has if you don't have their lifestyle, or if you change your lifestyle. Because sometimes they make it seem like, well, this runs in the family. It's inevitable that you will follow the same path.
Well, it runs in the family in the sense of how we ate,
right,
or we eat over the years. Because if I continue as, you know, eating the chicken and the fish and the whatever, which runs in my family because of that's a habit, then sure enough, I don't think I'll be here sitting with you in the studio talking. Right? Wow. Because I in my early years, I had health issue already. Right, in my early years. So I saw it coming, and I did not make the changes because of that, of the health issues I was experiencing. I just from an early age had a dislike develop a dislike and a distaste for animal products on a whole. Right? But I just didn't know what to do. So when I became an Adventist and the whole world of health reform, especially vegetarian, was opened up to me, it was just hallelujah.
Wow. So now you knew what to do and how to actually eliminate those things from your diet.
Yes. And, the funny thing about it, what made it interesting to me, when I grew up in Jamaica, I took so many things for granted. All right. And when I got to the States in 79, Chicago of all the places, cold, and in the winters and what, I could say to my American friends, listen, I'm coming from what you'd call a third world country, or properly known as a developing, country. Where we, unlike Americans who could put a man on the moon, we could hardly put one on the light pole. Right? Our clinics there, American clinics, the clinics there are more well staffed and equipped than our hospitals, including our main hospital, the University of the West Indies.
Yes.
Right? You go to Mayo Clinic, it's not a clinic.
It's a big, full-blown hospital.
Definitely. Right? So the point I'm making, here it is, moving from Jamaica to America, I could easily say to them, don't feel sorry for us because we don't need your healthcare system.
Wow.
Why we don't need your healthcare system? Because our folks back then in the 70s, up to the 70s, were easy living, some of them 80, 90, 100. Some never been to the doctor from they were born.
My grandmother's never been to the doctor.
Exactly. Oh, all right. So see, you can dovetail with what I'm saying.
My mother has never been to the doctor as a child, growing up as a child.
Exactly. Well, that reminds me of my wife and I, Margaret, our last 3 children never went to the doctor until they were either 19 or 21. So
wow.
And we'll get more into that. So here, moving to the States and seeing people so sick, and many, not everybody, but seeing sickness rampant, which was something unlike I was accustomed to in Jamaica, right? It really proved to me then that really affordable healthcare is not so much, or medicine is not so much from a bottle called pills, right? Drugs or supplement, but it's in the lifestyle.
Amen.
And so, unknown to me though, that I would return to Jamaica to see something differently 40 years later. We would just be like Americans with diabetes, high blood pressure, cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, something when I was growing up, I didn't
never heard of it.
I heard about arthritis, but not rheumatoid arthritis.
No.
Right? Lou Gehrig's disease and, which is called ALS and all of these, multiple sclerosis. We never heard of those things. Once in a while, you might hear somebody has maybe a little blood pressure. They call it pressure.
Or sugar.
Sugar, which is diabetes,
Right.
And once in a while, you might hear about a heart attack or somebody died from cancer. This was once in a blue moon, so to speak.
Yes.
But now these are commonplace things in Jamaica. And guess why? We've adopted the American lifestyle.
The standard Kentucky, American diet.
The Burger Kings, the churches, right? The chickens, you name it. We just live like Americans down here. We could become the 51st state of America.
We really could. Union. And you know what this is reminding me of? On Friday, I was out on the road, went in 2 different stores at 2 different times and heard they were playing the news in the store. And what came over the news, those 2 separate occasions, was the rise in the obesity rate in Jamaica. Now, that was kind of unheard of back in the day. The Jamaican children were always a lot smaller than their American counterparts.
We were thin.
We're
like
they call them whingy.
Exactly.
Back then. We were thin and
healthy.
small, but healthy. Now there's this deep concern of the rise in the obesity rate among adults and children.
It's an epidemic.
It is.
As a matter of fact, the increase in obesity in Jamaica is faster. There's a higher increase or a faster increase in obesity rate here than in the United States.
Wow. And they're begging for the sugary drinks to be cut,
which, there's a fight, and which we'll talk more about that.
Right.
So definitely coming from Jamaica 40 years ago and going to the United States and many things that I took for granted here, and getting there, I realized the value of it. For example, we grew up where we ate maybe a little piece of chicken on Sunday. And the little piece was so small because it was a 3-pound chicken that was raised on crushed corn and cut up coconut, right? And that 3 pound of chicken, you might say, well, you know, it's a nuclear family, a family of 4. No, most of us were living in a home where there were 8, 9, 10 children.
And that had to feed everybody.
Exactly. Plus grandmother and aunt who lives next door or in the same yard or whatever, right? You know, and so when you got your little piece, it was like watchman on your plate. It's like you almost had to use magnifying glass to see it. It
was a little treat.
It was, and you save it for the last, so that at least when you go to school the following day, you could say you ate chicken, and you could say how it tasted because it was the last thing in your mouth from your Sunday evening dinner. Otherwise, it was kalaloo, rundown that was with coconut, with broad beans, right? Lentil stew. Red peas, right? We're using the red beans, which we call red peas, you know, garbanzo, which we call chickpeas, you know, something, you know, that we use. Not until Sunday again, you might get a little piece of fish once in a while, that little piece of chicken, not every Sunday either, you know. So we live healthily. We were actually practically vegetarian without realizing it, to be honest.
That's true.
Right? You know, and yet, when you look at us back then, we were strong. We were healthy. Right? Now, returning to Jamaica after almost 40 years, right? We just like Americans, our number one cause of death down here is heart-related death. Yes. So that take into your stroke, your heart attack, high blood pressure, right? Circulation issue, you know, and your heart disease, you name it. Right. That's the number one. Number 2 is cancer. Right. And they account for over 60% of the deaths in Jamaica. Wow. And then you have, as usual, violence, which also has a connection with the foods that we are eating with the diet. Exactly. Right. You know, and you have diabetes and, you know, and pneumonia and so on. Right. And so we are very Americanized down here. And you know, there's something important about diseases. When we talk about racism and prejudice, we tend to just think of one sector, and that is coming from one sector. But if you look at every race, there are elements of racism and prejudice from every race. The Chinese has it, the blacks have it, right? The whites, the Indians, the Japanese, every nationality has it even. And even among the Europeans who are whites, right? The Northern Europeans look down at the Italians and other Southern Europeans, right? We know in all black countries in Africa, we have tribal wars, you know, or division. So racism or prejudice is nothing new. But one thing I would say to people about disease, one of the things is that disease is an equal opportunity employer.
Doesn't matter what color you are or ethnic background.
Definitely. Once your lifestyle is of such, right, that invites disease, it will come and take up residence. Right? It's not going to look at you as a black person and excuse you, or Caucasian and excuse you, or Indian or Chinese and excuse you.
That's right.
So as we from different races and nationality adopt the Western lifestyle of lots of animal product, lots of fat, lots of refined products, then what do you see as the decades go by? More diseases.
Wow. Well, we're here and we're talking to Dr. Orrett Morgan about the affordable health care for all. So as the diseases have been rising, it's put a really big strain on the economy.
You are perfectly right. I work with an insurance company doing claim adjusting health insurance in Chicago area for 5 years. And during that time, I realized more and more, and, you know, being an Adventist, my background being there and health conscious, right, I realized that somewhere between 1/5 to 1/6 of the economy, right, is spent on healthcare.
Healthcare, wow.
Or supposedly healthcare, which is not really healthcare, right? It's a sick care business. And why I say that is when I working with the insurance companies and handling claims day in, day out, 5 days a week, I realized that if many people would change their lifestyle, many of the hospital bills that they were confronting and doctors' bills that they were confronting would be history. Give you a case in point. My wife said to me about 5 years ago, honey, guess how much the drug companies make in profit from cholesterol-lowering drug? I'm very conservative in many things. Never voted or anything of that nature in all my 60 years, so I'm not into politics. But in thinking my lifestyle, people will say I'm very conservative, right, because of my values. And so I said to her, about 2 billion. She said, take a second guess. I said 9. She didn't give me a third guess. She said 33 billion in profit, not sales. Now, pause a little. From those cholesterol-lowering drug, whether it's Cristal or Lipitor or, the myriads of one out there, right, all of them have side effects because all drugs have side effects, right? Some worse than others. Now, you just think about being on Lipitor, one of these cholesterol-lowering drugs, which produces side effects. Say that side effect is a kidney situation. Then now you have to go to a nephrologist, right, for you to be treated for your kidney.
Right.
So then that's another $33 billion possibly from those kidney drugs and whatever other else it causes, right? Now, that second batch of drug that are prescribed as a result, right, for the side effects from the cholesterol lowering drug also have side effects.
So you have to take something
So you have
else.
to take a third one, or if you don't take it, somebody else takes it, right? So therefore, that's another $33 billion easily just from the third side effects. That's easily $100 billion the drug companies make. Now pause a little. Cholesterol. High cholesterol is primarily from two factors. Number one, eating cholesterol-laden food. So there goes your chicken, there goes your fish, there goes your beef, all your dairies and whatever, and you name it. Your
Animal
hot dogs,
products.
all the animal products, whatever, because they come loaded with cholesterol. Some more than others, right? But they all come loaded with cholesterol. So actually, you're putting in cholesterol in your body. If you and I and the public in general, if we were to just go on a vegetarian diet, right? Listen, that we would not leave 90% of us, pretty much, at least I would say 80% of us wouldn't need any more cholesterol lowering drug after a while.
Wow.
Now I'm not talking about just stop taking it, everyone. Some could immediately, but some it wouldn't mean weaning them off it. But eventually, most of us, over 80%, just by doing that. Because guess what? If we're not taking in any cholesterol and we're on a high fiber diet, which the fiber helps to eliminate excess cholesterol, why would we need Cristal? Why would we need Lipitor and other drug?
Right.
So that's one. Two, stress is also another factor. When we get stressed out, our liver produces more cholesterol than normal. Right? So it's not the coconut oil, because no plant product has cholesterol, as we have been duped into thinking, right? That well, coconut. All right. Now we are hearing about the avocado, or in Jamaica now we are hearing about the ackee, which we'll talk more about another time. But point is, right? No animal product can give you cholesterol.
No plant product.
Right? Because no plant product. Thanks for the correction. No plant product, because the only thing that can produce cholesterol is not the brain, not the heart, not the kidney, is the liver. And no plant product ever have a liver in it.
That's
right. So therefore, right, the drug company, the medical community, the rest of the medical community is making billions of dollars off us by duping us into thinking that, well, listen, we need these cholesterol lowering drug for the rest of our life. Why they do not tell us that we should watch our stress level, right? And what is that? Trust in God is the greatest remedy for stress, right? To stop eating the animal product, because our body is the temple of the Lord.
Wow.
So here it is. We can see why I became disturbed working with the insurance company, knowing I wasn't doing anything wrong, but at the same time knowing that healthy lifestyle is a better answer, right, to drugs. And now I'm not down in using drugs, because sometimes the blood pressure might be so high, the sugar might be so high, or whatever ailment. To get it under some control, we might have to utilize some drugs, right, prescribed by the doctor. But where I have the problem, the serious problem now, is where no lifestyle change is recommended, and the person is placed on drugs or on herbs or supplement. I call that witchcraft.
Mercy.
To be honest with
and
you.
That's
it is sorcery.
That's serious,
right.
Because a lot of times people will say, oh, well, I'm taking herbs. I'm doing things God's way. But they're not making the lifestyle changes. Exactly. So they don't they don't see it as practicing witchcraft, but they are in fact doing so.
Definitely. And let's just analyze that. So here's a person who's taking cholesterol lowering drug for 10 years. Get fed up because it's going nowhere, plus the side effects. So they change, but they're still eating their chicken and their fish, still stressing out themselves,
not
right?
exercising.
Right? Not exercising, not
going
eating,
to bed,
not going to bed on time, so they get stressed easily as a result. So now they get fed up with whatever cholesterol lowering drugs they're taking, and they move now to herbs or to vitamins or minerals, some form of supplement. Right? They still haven't changed the picture. Right. The equation hasn't changed much. The only thing they are not getting side effects from those. Right. But at the same time, they are still eating the stuff. So it's actually practicing witchcraft. And some of our listeners might say, why witchcraft? Then let's go to Samuel, to 1 Samuel chapter 15.
Okay.
Right? Verse 22 and 23, where the Lord told Samuel to go and tell Saul, King Saul, right, that behold, it is better to obey than sacrifice. Why? He had given Saul a command through Samuel to kill all the Amalekites and all the sheep and everything that ever move or creepeth. Right? And Saul did 99% of what the Lord said I would say.
Wow.
Right? By killing all the Amalekites except one, Agag the king. Also killing all the sheep, horse, donkeys, you name it, cows, except a few fatted sheep to offer a sacrifice. And the Lord said to him, rebellion is like the sin of witchcraft. And why I use the word rebellion, I like the word rebellion. Many of us know that we should exercise. We should eat better. We should drink water. We know, all right. We should stop stressing out ourselves. And I know that is easier said than done, but it can be done.
Of course.
We should get fresh air. We should not overwork. We should be temperate and whatever and unit. But we refuse to do it, and we either go take the drug, right, or take the herbs, right. You know, that is actually now still is practicing rebellion, just like what Saul did, right. And you turn into these things
because we're doing things we know we shouldn't be doing, or we're omitting to do things that we know we should be doing. So yes, we are in rebellion. Exactly.
No, some people will say no, because rebellion reminds them of Satan who rebelled against God, or people who try to overthrow government. Well, you and I are parents, and we know in raising our children, when we tell them something and they either delay it or don't do it at all, not that they're trying to run us out of the house or what, but we call that rebellion, and rightly so. Right? So when we delay in doing specific commands, or we just ignore them, our children, we call that rebellion. Well, when we do to the Lord, it's the same rebellion.
Exactly.
And even more so. And so that rebellion manifests itself in the sense of not willing or not changing our lifestyle, yet going out there to take the drugs. Now, interestingly also, from the word that we get pharmacy from is a Greek word, which is pharmakia. And from pharmakia, we get two English words. One is pharmacy and the other one is sorcery.
Mercy.
Now, it's interesting that sorcery is connected to the word pharmakia or pharmacy, because we know that drug does not heal. It only deceives the mind. And again, we are not here that people shouldn't take their drugs. But if we are going to rely on the drugs, and a case in point, you're driving down the road and your oil indicator comes on and say you need oil, right? You don't continue driving and take up a screwdriver and knock it out, right? You pull over, you get some oil, and you pour in that engine. Right, and the oil goes off. So why when we have a headache, we don't stop and think how that headache comes along? We take some Tylenol, some aspirin or whatever,
looking for a quick fix.
Right? Isn't that sorcery we are practicing? Because it could be our body needs rest. We're not going to bed on time. It might be dehydrated because we're not drinking enough water.
Could be triggered by something we ate.
Exactly. Definitely. It could be a toxic bloodstream. It could be stress. It could be so many other factors. But we just go and we take the drug, or we go to the doctor who prescribe a drug now that knocks out the central nervous system, so we are not feeling the headache anymore. But guess what? The body is still going through the problem, only that it's not able to indicate to you and I that something is going on wrong. That's sorcery.
Wow.
That's knocking out the indicator, so we don't see the sign that says the oil
Something's
is getting
low. So now back to affordable health care. A lot of times, because we have become so sick, and it's such a strain to go to the doctor and to pay this for this medication and that medication, or even for the herbs to take this herb and that herb, and we're not necessarily willing. Some people don't even know how to change your lifestyle or what they need to do to change your lifestyle. How does the affordable...
A very good question. When we talk about affordable healthcare, the first thing that comes to people's mind is insurance.
Of course.
Yeah, how affordable is this insurance?
Yes.
All right. And so that's why I titled it not just affordable healthcare for all, but affordable healthcare without insurance.
Without insurance.
Right? And so many people might say, well, how is that possible? Well, I'm a living proof. For 27 years now, I have not paid one dime in health insurance. Living in Florida for those years, right, where just like anywhere else in the United States, because of the affordable health care that was implemented roughly 10 years ago, it is required, mandated that everybody carries insurance coverage.
That's right.
Or pay a penalty, which every year I've paid the penalty rather than carry. Now, how much I would have paid over the years? Over 600,000.
Have mercy.
Not Jamaican dollars now, US, right?
That is crazy.
Yeah.
And that's
insurance
the affordable
premium,
one, right?
And that is the affordable one, right? That's the affordable one, right? And without even using it once. And why I say once, because over that period of time, except about 2 years ago, Malcolm got sick, right? But none of our children ever got sick for us to even take them to the doctor during that time. Now, that 600,000 I would have paid and would not have pretty much used a policy once. Now, versus the fact that instead of doing that, we adopted what I call LifeSaid. So it's affordable health care without insurance for all through LifeSaid. Now, what is LifeSaid? It's an acronym that spells out the 8 principles of health. Okay. And we say 8 principles. These are foundational principles for when the Lord said in 3 John verse 2, said, "Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as your soul prosper." And we remember we mentioned Exodus 15:26, where the Lord said, if we diligently hearken unto him and do that which is right, he'll put none of these diseases as he had put on the Egyptians. No, it wasn't the Lord who put them on the Egyptians, but it was the Egyptians who put them on themselves, just like how we Jamaicans, we Americans, and the rest of the world put in the diseases on ourselves through our adopting unhealthy lifestyle.
Right, so because when you're disobedient, you remove yourself from the protection that the Lord has.
Exactly. And what is the protection? For example, trust in God is the greatest protection. Right? And so another one, so the L is for loving trust. Loving trust. The I is for ideal. And who do we trust? The Lord. The I is for ideal diet, as found in Genesis 1:29, where the Lord gave us fruits, grains, and nuts. And in Genesis 3, when man sinned, right, he added vegetables. The F is for fresh air. And we know we'll talk more about these, in an additional program. But in a nutshell, right, F is for fresh air. E is for essential water. And we know the body is 70% water. Yes. So water is very essential for our survival. S is for sufficient rest, meaning not only 8 hours, but at least 3 hours before midnight, because each hour before midnight is worth 2 hours, after, right? Because that's when the body makes most of its repair, and especially the nerves before midnight. And that's where the serotonin is produced in the pineal gland of the brain to offset stress, and also some of it converted into melatonin to build our immune system. And that's why when we go to bed repeatedly late, we are more likely to pick up a cold, come down with the flu, or whatever we are struggling with as an ailment is harder to recover from, because our immune system is weakened as a result of going to bed late. So here we have it, sufficient rest, and always temperate. The A is for always temperate. So that means do not overeat, do not drink, use coffee, and do not abuse drugs. And I'm talking about even the prescribed drug, because we abuse it by not adopting healthy lifestyle. And so we abuse it. That's drug abuse, which we don't talk about in the United States, Jamaica, or most places, because we only talk about the marijuana and the crack and the cocaine.
The illegal
one, which kill less people than these, which we'll talk about also. And invaluable sunlight. Right, so we have the invaluable sunlight as the seventh one, and sunlight is extremely extremely valuable, and so we say it's invaluable because we cannot place a value from it, because vitamin D, especially that we get from the sunlight, is so important to the body that every cell has a receptor for vitamin D.
Wow.
Just as our oxygen is so essential, or water is so essential, vitamin D is extremely essential
and
for the body.
And when we check it out, many of us are vitamin D deficient.
Well, that's why cancers are so rampant, especially prostate cancer, breast cancer, colon cancer, and pancreatic cancer. All the cancers, but especially those four, they're more rampant in areas where people are not getting enough vitamin D. Right? Not to mention depression. Right? Most of our cases of depression, right, vitamin D would be the greatest help for the person, and also help to reverse the depression.
Because how do we feel on a gloomy day?
Down.
When there's no sun shining.
Now, why do you think people in England, Upper Michigan, and also in the northern states have a higher depression rate than we here in Florida and other sunny states like Texas? Right? So, yes, lack of sunlight causes depression. Also elevates sugar. Right, and blood pressure, and not to mention diseases like rheumatoid arthritis and many of these. So we're looking at invaluable sunlight there that is not only a valuable tool for preventing these diseases, but also helping to reverse these diseases.
Wow.
Because remember what the Lord said in 2 Chronicles 7:14, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways. And in this case, habits that are destroying us, where we're committing actually suicide.
Mercy.
By disobeying these principles.
Which means we're breaking commandments.
We're breaking commandments because it says, thou shalt not kill.
Mercy.
Right? And so he said, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. So,
such a beautiful promise.
One of the most beautiful promises
wow.
we have in the Bible. So here the Lord is not only promising us good health, that we don't have to get sick, but even with our tardiness or rebelliousness, right? If we turn to him with our willingness to obey these 8 laws of health, right, then he said he will have mercy on us and will heal us. Right?
Wow.
And so the 8th one is exercise, that daily exercise, where we need to walk at least 6,000 steps a day. Take at least 6,000 steps a day. Right? And with that, the Lord promises us good health.
Right? Wow. And
now, that is why I said it is affordable. Now, what? Is there any one of these that we can't afford? Tell me. Just off the bat, which one of them we have to buy? We don't really have to buy food. We can grow our own food.
Which we've been instructed to do anyway.
Right. We don't have to buy water because the Lord falls rain and there are streams there and there are wells and there are springs and you name it. Right. And so we can make our own distilled water. There's so much we can do. Right? And so the only 2 of those 8 we can buy. None of the others, because we can't buy rest. We can't buy fresh air. We can't buy the sunlight. We can't buy exercise. We can't buy temperance. No, we can't buy trust in God. And if you notice, the main one there is trust in God. And that's why I begin with trusting in God. Because it's like the hub that everything
else follows through with. Yes, because
right?
if you're trusting him and asking him to lead your life and you're relying on him, he'll show you how to do all of these.
Exactly. And he enables you. Exactly. But if you leave him out of the equation and you follow all the others, then you're actually trusting in your own self.
And you know what's important about what you're saying here? I've heard so many people say, oh, well, how did Mr. So-and-so get sick? He's on a vegan diet and I see him walking all the time. How could he come down with cancer?
But remember, they are not realizing that lack of trust in God causes stress. And stress is one of the major causes of cancer. Not drinking enough water causes, can cause cancer also, because our body is not able to flush out the impurities as it should. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you this. In Florida, at our church here in Maranatha, in Orlando area, there's this one lady, her husband had died from leukemia back in the 90s.
Okay.
And about 10 years ago, she also died from leukemia. Well, you and I know leukemia is not transmittable to one person, from one person to another, except by blood transfusion. Right, so even though they were husband and wife, it's not like AIDS
He could catch it,
or tuberculosis. She couldn't catch it that way. It's not a communicable disease, as we would say. Right now, you know what caused it? They lived in New Jersey in a very polluted area for a number of years, because I asked her daughter, I said, something strange here. I said, did your mom and dad live in a very polluted area? She said, Dr. Morgan, yes, in New Jersey for 20 something years, and over 20 something people that she knew of died from cancer in that area.
Wow.
So yes, some people might say that as a result of someone being a vegetarian, how could they have cancer? We're looking at 8 principles here, and when we violate any one of them, we can have cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, lupus, ALS, whatever the rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, whatever the disease is, because it's not one thing that causes, it's not poor diet alone that affects our health. It's all 8 of them.
And just like with the 10 Commandments, if you follow almost all of them, but you offend in one point, then you're guilty of all.
Yes, that is so true.
Wow. So, very important. We have to pray and ask the Lord to give us the strength to be able to do this, because, like you said, we can't do any of this on our own.
And at a future program, I would like to break it down how each of these principles affect our immune system, can either build our immune system, or if we disregard them, how it can break down our immune system, how they improve circulation, how they affect blood pressure, how they affect blood sugar, the different ways that each of these principles.
Amazing.
Right?
Yes, we would definitely like to have you back to discuss this further. So this has been a true blessing to be able to talk with you about this. Guys, these things are free, affordable, if we will trust God with our lives. So it's been really great having you here, Dr. Morgan.
It's a pleasure.
Is there anything else that you would like to say to our listeners before we go on a break?
Yeah, my closing statement on this and recommendation is, there's no doubt about it that drugs, prescription drugs, I'm talking, vitamins, supplements, they all have their place, in helping a person to recover. Drugs for recovering, vitamins and so on for preventing and recovering. But they are not medicine. No medicine comes in a bottle except food or water.
Wow.
Right? The medicine is what we just talked about, the life's aid principle. Right? That's what lays the groundwork for good health. And that's why the Lord said he wishes above all things, because that's what he gives us. So I'm not for one moment putting aside the use of drugs or supplements, but they should be used within the framework of a healthy lifestyle. And then that means now we could drop our healthcare, right, cost that it is eating 1 out of every $5-6 to where we are just using maybe 1 out of every $20 for healthcare. We could drop it to 5% instead of the enormous percent it is at this moment. So roughly 17, almost 20% of what we spend it on healthcare, right? Here in the United States, we could pretty much use about 5% if we change our lifestyle. But then ask yourself how much the drug companies would make, how much we doctors would make. That's for another program.
It might not be something that doctors might want to hear.
No, most of us don't want to hear that, but it's good for the public anyhow.
That's right. Well, we thank you for being here with us today. I believe that we are going to hear from you again tomorrow, talking about a different topic about what's happening in our whole education system and why it may be profitable for us to homeschool instead. So we're really looking forward to talking to you about that. And
I look forward, because my wife and I, Margaret, we homeschool our 5 children until they were ready for college. Never went out there. So that's that. We'll talk more about that tomorrow.
We can't wait to hear that one. Seriously. So we're going to go to a break right now, and we will be back with Pastor Bowen and today's Morning Manna.